Hey, what's going up, guys? What's going up, guys? What's up, guys? It's me and Jenn Bruno Smith. Today
Hey
we're going to
guys.
be talking about Boudoir in 2021. So what's up, Jenn? Your new office, we were just talking about it. It looks really cool.
Thank you. Thank you. I can't claim any of this work. Randy did everything. He did.
Did you like design that just for videos?
Yeah.
So what's the rest of the office look like? Is it also like presentable, or is it like literally just meant for the camera?
Well, right now it kind of looks like a FedEx shipment place because we have all of our boxes from the conference, like the retractable banners and the extra bags and things like that. So it's not looking super presentable, unfortunately, but the back looks nice.
Yeah. And did you always have those cameras, or?
They're my dad's cameras from when he used to shoot. So when he was a photographer, he collected antique cameras. And so when he moved, he gave them all to us. And so here they are.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So we just got back from Vegas, right? And we just got back from Vegas. We basically sold out all the in-person seats. We were a little bit restricted with Vegas and COVID. And we just announced that we actually just booked and reserved a room at Mandalay Bay, right?
You got it. Same place, same venue. I think same room, but we can expand to make it bigger
Yeah, depending on the turnout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's what day is it exactly? It's February.
Yep. So the actual conference will be February 26th, which is a Saturday. And then February 25th will be the shootout, which is a Friday, like right before. And then our happy hour will be Sunday, February 27th from 8 to 10. I did not announce the location yet because we need to make sure of some things.
Yeah, we're still a couple months out, and
right.
Tickets for that, and the link will be in that. It'll probably be even a wait list, depending on when you're watching this. But make sure to reserve them, because if we fill up, then you might be left on the outside having a live stream, which isn't so bad, but obviously in person is really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, it went so well last year, but in August, it went so well. I was so happy with it. I mean, considering it was our first conference, I think we did a good job.
Yeah. So new office space that used to be where you shoot. So like, catch us up. Earlier this year, you moved into a new studio. Yeah. And you just posted some numbers for this year. So just give us a recap of 9 months in, almost 10 months in.
Yeah. So I was September of 2020, we moved into the studio space, and it was so nice to have our own space because all the kids were not in school. So we had to have somewhere, to put them to do their school. So we moved into the new studio space in September of 2020. And then I hired associate photographers shortly after that. And they've been training now for 9 or 10 months. They're shooting and independently now. And the studio revenue. So I took most of the summer off. I had maybe 7 shoots all summer, and they were all travel sessions. And the studio's revenue as of today is $550. And last year, at the end of the year, I closed at $535 or $540 or something like that. So I've basically met what I did last year. And I still have like my 2 heaviest months. October's and November are always huge for me.
Yeah, so you still have a full quarter, and probably sometimes the busiest quarter, at least for most boudoir photographers I know. So what's that like as far as balance? Because I know for a lot of people, they might think like, oh, I'd rather be shooting the whole thing and not paying anyone. So like, what's the difference now that even though you've earned more, and you will earn more over the year, and it might be the same after you pay people, or whatever the numbers work out to, like, how is that?
I mean, there's definitely been some growing pains for sure. But, my one associate that is shooting probably about 2 to 3 times a week, she is very open to constructive criticism. And there's a constant communication there of how we can improve things and make them better. She's a really hard worker, but, beyond that, like, she's really good with my clients, which is the most important thing. So, as we're kind of going through these growing pains, like as an example, we had to use a different hair and makeup artist for her shoots because there's 2 a day in my studio now. I'm shooting in the morning, she's shooting in the afternoons. So as an example, we used a different hair and makeup artist last 2 weeks ago. and it just was not good. The hair and makeup was not good. She did a great job, but my associate photographer did great. But I ended up reshooting the session because the hair and makeup just wasn't where I needed it to be. So there's going to be some growing pains like that. And, I'm anticipating that anytime you grow, there's growing pains, right, associated with it. But figuring out all these little things is just going to lead to, a better experience for my clients, us being able to take clients on quicker, because I'm booking November of 2022. So, when someone calls to book me and I'm like, hey, I can take you next year, I'm losing business. So, the ultimate goal in bringing on associate photographers is for them to be able to kind of take this overflow when I need them to. So,
yeah, I will say I have seen the same trend across the entire United States. Is 2020, ironically, even though it was like 3 to 4 months where people couldn't shoot, was still like a record year for a lot of our top studios. And then 2021 is coming in even higher than that. Yeah. But yeah, I have a client and she might be listening because sometimes she'll call me and say, oh, I watched your live. But she's in that ballpark of like, I think she said maybe 800,000 to 900,000. But her biggest worry is like, she doesn't book out that far ahead. So she like only books out like a month or two ahead. And she's always asking me like, oh, like what are other people doing? So like for you, like, what are you doing that you think, even though, the numbers might be similar, like leaves you a little bit more comfortable with bookings compared to, someone who might be higher. I will caveat that and say they are higher priced. They do have a higher session fee. Yeah.
I think you kind of just answered the question. So if you're not booking and you have a higher minimum and a higher session fee, you're going to have a harder time booking. And when you lower your session fee and you lower your retainer fee, you're going to book more. And, what's the ultimate goal? It's to get people in your doors. So, of course but if everything else on the back end is you're doing what you need to do, like your sales, your IPS is, good. You don't have holes in your investment menu. You're shooting to sell. You're providing an excellent customer experience. 90% of the time, you're going to be able to have a good sale on the back end. But I think people get too worked up about like requiring payment and getting their money up front before they've actually done the work. And that's a hard sell for a lot of clients who might be cold to your studio or just warm. Like someone who's really sold on your brand is going to be like, yeah, I'll pay you $500. Yeah, I'll pay you $3,000 up front, before I've seen my images. But if you're trying to get cold traffic and bring new people in, it's going to be really hard to sell them on that. So, for someone who's having difficulty booking and filling their studio, that would probably be my first recommendation, is to kind of reverse engineer that and concentrate more on the back end, getting your, shooting to sell, making sure your IPS is in order, presenting finished images whenever you do your IPS, like those sorts of things.
I will say a lot of times, specifically, I'm going to say like studios that like maybe established a decade ago, that they're just so used to charging that. And then a lot of their, let's just say their fears with that is that they'll say, well, if I charge less, in the past, I've had people pay less. So it's like, if they keep their session fee up, then they're able to have much higher sales averages and they don't want to waste time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a gamble. I mean, it's definitely a risk, but would you rather have 25 shoots booked or would you rather have 10 shoots booked? Just having it's sheer numbers. Like you're going to have sales that are lower. It's just, it's what happens. But I would also encourage those people that if they are going to make that change to their retainer fee and going to make that change to their minimum investment, they have to also look at the sales that they are, or like at the images that they're presenting at their sales session. Does it have enough variety? Are you shooting enough sets? Are you providing, are you giving enough variety that it will lead the client to the collection that you want to sell to them. If the only thing they change is the minimum investment and the retainer fee, but they're not looking at any other pieces, that could maybe get them in trouble because it might not even be their investment. It might be the images at the end. Do you know what I mean? Or the amount of variety that they're providing, you know?
Yeah. And I've been reading a lot about stoicism, and like one of the principles is that you should not worry about the things you can't control, and that you should take complete ownership and like strive to work at the things you can control. And in this case, if you were looking at like, okay, session fee, am I supposed to blow them away? The images, like, what am I delivering? I think sometimes, you know, someone does have a low sale compared to being extremely high, like normal, and they get disheartened, and then like things change or attitudes change or like mood changes. And then the approach to everyone changes, or even if there's no reason to, like, we start treating people differently because they paid a little bit less. And like, instead of just being like super focused and being like, hey, I'm going to always deliver like 1,000%. It's like those things just creep up in our mind. It's like doubts, and it kind of gets you away. And then it like, basically that prophecy is fulfilled, right? Then people spend less. Then you're like, damn it, I knew it. I should have been charging less. And I do find that, because I do find people on both ends of the spectrum that are like, nope, only super high session fee, and they do great with it. And it's like, yeah, you believe that. So, and then you act in accordance with it. And then other people are like, nope, if they pay, even if it's someone who would spend more just because they spent 100, they're definitely going to spend one half of that. So I can't have them do that. But yeah.
Yeah. I think so. When I shoot every client like they're going to buy my bombshell collection. Every client I shoot like a bombshell, unless they're giving me so many red flags that I'm like, they're not going to buy. Like, they're like, I don't know. Like if they say, I just lost my job and I'm on disability or whatever. But even then you really don't know. Cause I had a client who said that exact same thing. And I only presented maybe 43 images. She bought all 43. So then I was like, you know what, Jen, like, why didn't you shoot her like you shot everyone else? So I shoot everyone like they're going to buy my $8,000 collection. And I've sold my $8,000 collection 11 times this year. So, so far, year to date. And last year in 2020, I shot it 10 times all year. So I'm already over what I did last year. So there's a question. Shauna said, have you ever had a client feel like 60 images is too much? Just super curious about this. No, if anything, they're overwhelmed with gorgeousness. And that's one of my goals, is to overwhelm them with beautiful images. And just last week, I had a client say, it's really hard, Jen, because, they're just different enough that you want them all. And and I'm like, that's what I'm trying to do. You figured me out. And that's it. Like, your images have to be just different enough that they're not going to be able to say no. And if they're too similar, it's easy for them to say no and get rid of them. So actually, when I'm doing IPS now, I'm presenting 97 to 105 very different images. And my retouching cost has gone up. I'm paying $400 to $450 now per session, but my sales average has gone up. My sales average is $5,500 now. So, and last year at this time, my sales average was $4,200. So
Are you still doing them all through Zoom?
Yep. Everything is through Zoom. All my sales sessions are through Zoom now, which is awesome because I shoot in the morning and then I come back home and I sit on my couch and I do a sales session in my pajamas. And then I put Netflix on and I watch something.
And even if your people are shooting it, like, you're still doing all the sales sessions?
Yeah, I'm still doing all the sales sessions, but I'm currently training Nikki to do IPS, and I'll be hiring someone else here soon as well. So.
Wow. And I know we were, just talking about this, but so you were considering maybe a commercial comparative, like a residence. How has that been? Do you wish you would have been in a commercial space?
No? I like the residential, but you're not really supposed to do it. But
oh yeah.
However, it was kind of like a fail safe for us because I don't need I don't need walking traffic. I don't need people looking in the windows. I don't need people walking by my storefront and being like, I want to book a boudoir session. No, like I don't need any of that. And also I didn't want to like pay money towards someone else's mortgage. And also if when I retire, that house we can rent. It's a rental property then. So we've been putting our money towards something that would then return by itself after I'm done using it for the purpose I'm using it for now.
Yeah. Is there a point you think like you would want to, like if you just got so big and you, I don't know, you had like, yeah, I actually think I know a lot of times people ask like they're just starting or like, maybe they had their first good year and they're like, oh, I should get like a $4,000 like on the main street.
Yeah.
I don't think maybe that's the time to do that. But I do think like, if you're extremely established and you have a really good flow, like the space can start doubling for other things. Like you can have, in-person events, you can do, like high rollers workshops there. You can have, brunches and stuff. You can have, I don't know, little galas and like host the community and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, and I actually think that probably soon I might be ready to do some sort of commercial space, but I need more trained and, very competent photographers in my style, because as I hire more photographers, they'll still shoot in my style, instead of hiring photographers who might shoot in their style. And merging them into my studio, I'll be training photographers to shoot in my style. So it's still on brand, because my brand is so strong.
Yeah. And by the way, is there any update on the TikTok? How's the TikTok going?
TikTok is driving me nuts. So I have gone quiet on TikTok for a little bit because, number one, the key to being successful on TikTok is.
Oh my God. I just tried to go look up your TikTok and it went
Wait,
crazy.
what?
I tried to go to your TikTok and like crazy music started playing.
Oh. So I haven't posted in a while for a few reasons. The first is currently every single person that posts on TikTok right now, it's going straight into review, which isn't good for me because I already have like a few marks on my, on the naughty sheet. Like I'm already on their naughty list and I don't want to lose the account. But the thing about TikTok and the algorithm has changed. So it used to be that it would push out to everybody. Like it would push out to a small group. If they reacted or interacted, then it got pushed out to a bigger group and then a bigger group, whatever. And then you have viral videos. But now it's being pushed out to your followers first. And then if they engage and interact, then it pushes out to more people. The problem is most of the people that started followed me because I showed my work. And I can't show my work anymore. So I've been really struggling with how to change that account and use it without getting kicked off, without losing it. It's been a struggle.
Do you think that's the same case for like other genres or maybe like comedy?
So
I don't know, like little kid stuff, family stuff.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that platform right now, but there's some sketchy stuff happening. So I'm just like chilling out from that for a while. And I've been taking kind of like a content creation break because it is a lot of mental energy to create this content. And it's very frustrating when you spend this time creating the content and then number one, no one sees it. Number two, you get, in the naughty corner for it. So it is very frustrating because you can see girls on there wearing next to nothing and dancing and they're fine. But if I show someone in a one-piece bathing suit, that's a beauty shot of their head and showing that much cleavage, I'm getting banned for it. So that's very stressful. That's been very stressful for me.
Yeah, it's a lot of likes, 5.6 million likes. So do you feel like you're putting more, are you posting more to Instagram, has the TikTok slowness even slowed you down on Instagram?
So I used to create all my content on TikTok and then move it to Reels. And I've literally taken like a total break from both platforms for a little bit, just to kind of like recenter myself and, just kind of take a break because it's very like I said, it's exhausting. But that's given me other time, more time to plan other things that are coming up, which I'm not ready to talk about yet, but other big things, which has been really nice to like be working on and focused on something else that's really productive.
Yeah, looking at like the numbers, it almost looks like before it used to be like TikTok, because it's almost like identical, your reels to your TikTok. And it used to be like TikTok would have like 10 times more. And now like all the numbers are almost exact. Like TikTok gives you the same views or plays as Instagram reels, which is crazy.
Yeah. They've literally put the kibosh on any sort of organic virality. It's very hard. And what I've noticed now is that running ads or promoting videos on TikTok is very easy to do. Remember before it was very difficult and there were so many hoops to jump through. And
now it's just a button, right?
And now you just push it to promote it. And so I did a little trial and I promoted a video that had once like, it only had maybe 40 or 50,000 views, but it created a lot of engagement and it really pushed a lot of people towards my Instagram. And so I promoted it. I paid $500 and I was specific about my audience. And really all that happened was I just got a lot of people trolling me. And I was like, okay, so they're trying to get your money and they're not really very efficient about who they're pushing it to.
Was it women doing that?
No, men. And that wasn't the audience that I had specified. So it could be that, women that were commenting were causing it to have like a bit of virality, right? And it was going into men's feeds too. I don't know. But this Stephanie said, everyone is struggling with TikTok. There's a theory that they will help push a creator's content and build them up. But once they get bigger and closer to the creator fund, they will start banning or blocking content so they can't get into the creator's fund. It's very interesting. I mean, I honestly do think that there is like some stuff going on with TikTok. And I noticed the change in like up until probably September of 2020, it was very easy for me to go viral, very easy to build my audience. Starting in September, remember when all that kind of started happening about TikTok being banned in the US and like they needed, someone that wasn't in China, a company that wasn't in China to take it over. Starting then, it started to get much harder. And then by January, it was nearly impossible for me to get any traction. So definitely the algorithms are changing and not for the better. So
yeah, I just typed into Google. I typed in like what did I type in? I typed in like just news and like billion monthly active users. Like I do think that tends to happen on almost every platform. I saw something today that basically had like a timeline of all the platforms. And it basically showed like Facebook during what time, Instagram. And it's like, yeah, when they start, there's like huge opportunity, right? Because, there's not as many people creating. And it's like, once it catches on and like everybody's competing and creating on it, like, it
gets much
just
harder.
starts to slow down. So
yeah. And that's funny. Whenever I see people say, how do I start on this TikTok thing? I'm like, dude, you missed the boat. That boat sailed about April to August of 2020. And if you didn't hop on the boat during that time, the boat's not really going anywhere now. So I really feel like, I'm still there. I still have a pretty large following on there. My goal at this point is not really to grow. It's to not get kicked off, honestly. And my goal is to push people into Instagram Reels because I'm not as scared of losing that account. It's not, I've not gone with,
Yeah, TikTok is like, I feel like Instagram is just way more easy to like comprehend kind of what they're doing than TikTok.
Yeah, there's a lot more transparency. They're not as they don't ban you there's a little bit more consistency. Like on Instagram, if you follow the rules, you're probably going to be okay. On TikTok, people lose their accounts and have no idea what they did and they can't get them back and there's no one to talk to. And it's very not transparent. So yeah, I've been really being very careful with that account. It's very hard.
By the way, one of the last topics I want to talk about is because I do know over the last year, like financing options and let's just say like financing options and you know, ways to offer people credit, whether it's Square, PayPal.
Yeah.
Is that something your studio offers? Because I just know for me, for like whenever I buy big things, obviously I always use my own line of credit. I have credit cards and cash and stuff.
Yeah.
But every now and then there's like someone who has some sort of special payment plan, or they have some special financing for some, you know, whatever industry it is. Yeah. How's that working?
So I personally don't use those, but a lot of my clients pay in full. They just put it on their own credit cards. But I probably have about maybe 6 or 7 clients on payment plans. I still do in-house payment plans. When Square Installments comes back, and I think it will, I'll use that again because I really liked Square Installments a lot. I was comfortable with it. That's the processor I use for all of my transactions. So I'll probably use that again when it comes back.
And do you feel, I guess, as you obviously like owning a business and knowing all the costs, in other industries, there's obviously like big inflation, right? Like home costs, materials, commodities, and stuff like that. Like, do you feel that plays any role? I mean, even like the used car market, you know, I just got a letter from my dealership almost offering me exactly what I paid for my car a couple of years ago. And I put, you know, I like did 10 times the miles it used to have.
Yeah.
And when I talked to my dealer friend, he was like, hey, we have no inventory. And shit's selling really high. So that's why we're offering you this. So for you, do you feel like any of this is like inflationary? Do you feel like you have costs rising on anything? Do employees want more money than they wanted 2 years ago? Or people just have more money to spend?
So I think there is more disposable income because we're coming off of a year where people didn't travel. They probably didn't go out to eat. And depending on where you are geographically, it's still very much like that. Like, you know, Delaware is a very blue state. I feel like, you know, here people are very aware of COVID and probably, you know, don't, with the exception of Firefly that just happened. But I feel like
What is that? Firefly?
Firefly, it's like this huge music festival in Delaware. Yeah. But so I feel like where you are geographically probably plays into that as well. But I do feel like people have more disposable income. So Tiffany just asked a question that's probably better for you to answer rather than me. She said, speaking of ads, I live in the LA area and the amount of people is over 1 million and I'm worried about pricing. Can you discuss more about the ads right now and how they are changing? She's thinking Facebook ads.
Yeah, I think across the industry, people are reporting across like every industry, ads are going up. I don't think it's like double or triple or anything like that for exposure. I mean, it might be like 30 or 40%. I do think that basically when you're talking about ads, it's like arbitrage on your ad spend. Like people were getting away with like spending $1,500 and like bringing in $80,000 for their studio, right? Or like 60,000. Like if you're doing that well and your ad costs now to get the same result, you have to spend like, you know, 1,900. Like, is it that big of a deal? You're like, you should be bringing back like multiples more than, you know, than whatever you're paying Facebook. So, you know, in industries where maybe let's just say like you're selling like a $20 product and like you're like really scraping by because, you know, you have cost of goods, you know, shipping and handling, and you need to upsell and like your margins are like 20%. Yeah. It's like, I think you should be very alarmed, but like in photography where like your margins are way bigger, even though, you know, you do have costs associated with your studio. When you're at volume, when you're doing 20 shoots, when you're doing 15, like, you know, overwhelmingly, you should be making far more. So
yeah,
we haven't seen it like that crazy.
I think that a lot of people that are really struggling with their ads are struggling because there are pieces missing, like they're perhaps not doing it in the best way possible, or perhaps their branding isn't on, you know, on par, or even they're not able to close people like on the back end, you know what I mean? So I feel like sometimes when people like, because I think people think that the ads are like a magic bullet. Like if I just get my ad right, I'm going to be booked out. And, you know, I think they put too many eggs in that basket, but there's so many other things that kind of like feed into that. Like you could run and you do run really great ads for me. You could run the greatest ads possible, but if I can't close them, on the phone, if I don't have like an email automation leading them to book me, if I'm not, creating a community, if my branding wasn't so solid, if I wasn't putting myself out there all the time, chances of them actually choosing me and hiring me are much smaller. You know what I mean?
I mean, sometimes I think the offers aren't good enough, the creatives aren't good enough, the photography is not good enough.
You have to have good work.
The messaging isn't good enough. And I always like mirror anything I do in photography. I like mirror towards my life. Right. I think I've told you the story, but I was looking for a tutor for my daughter, and like, I'm already kind of in the realm of like looking for a tutor. I've like looked at tons of places, in Miami in person, and I see an ad for, someone remote. The place was called like Varsity Tutors. So I'm like literally about to go to dinner. It's like 6:00 at night. I already picked up my daughter from school, and I see their form, and they answer everything. It talks about all the stats, all the issues, all the advanced, like all the problems people might choose to do tutoring, right? Some people do it because their kids are behind. Some people might do it to get their kids on par. Some people do it to like excel their kids. So like you have all these people that are for different reasons, right? And they're answering all those questions. They have testimonials and stuff. So I see on the form, it says like, we'll call you in 5 minutes if you submit this. And I'm like, literally, I only submitted it just because I was like, oh, let me just test this. I want to see if this is true.
Right.
So I submitted, I'm getting dressed, like I'm kind of like getting ready to go to dinner. And somebody like calls me like 3 minutes later. And I tell the lady, I'm like, I'm not going to talk to you on the phone right now. I was just testing it. And she's like, I just have a couple questions. Don't worry, it'll take 10 minutes. And I was like, I'm just letting you know, I'm not going to buy anything. I'm still looking. And by the end of the call, I gave her my credit card for like $2,000. And I bought like a huge batch of hours. And I thought about that. I was like, that's a lot that rarely happens in photography, right? Like you get somebody, you show them like, let's say you do everything right. Like you have good branding, you have good photos, you have a good message, you get someone super excited, and then they come to your inbox and you like wait 3 days. And now that like rush, because when I was like looking at the stories, I was like, oh, this is so cool. This is exactly. And she called me 3 minutes later. Like the opposite is, I inquire with a car dealer for a car and they wait like 5 days. And I'm like in the middle of like being at a student meeting, or I'm on a call with you and they're like messaging me saying, hey, 5 days ago, we got your inquiry. And it's like, that kind of faded. I'm not even thinking about that anymore. I don't even remember what color that was. I don't have the work fresh in my mind, photography to cars. And it's like, you could be doing everything right. And like, are you following? That woman on the phone was good. Like I could tell her entire company had like sales training, and I knew what she was doing, but still, it still worked. Like I knew exactly what she was doing as she was asking every question and every follow-up question. I was like, all right, I'll answer. And I answered truthfully. And she made me convince myself I needed her services. So yeah, a lot of times all those things. And then you can, even if you do those perfect, like you still fumble it just by not following up or not being very enthusiastic or certain on the phone.
I think I'm going to go look up that tutoring service now.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, it's like one of the hardest things. I had a teacher, I had like a third grade teacher, like a local third grade, and she was great. But then like COVID hit and she was like, oh, by the way, I'm quitting because I found a new job doing sales for something. And, so I was like, damn it. So yeah, I had to go find another teacher.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. And by the way, that depends. Like some places and some demographics are cheaper. Some areas are cheaper. So, and the other thing is some objectives are cheaper. So if you're doing like conversions, again, I don't ever like put that much emphasis on like any one metric. It's kind of a combination, like depending on what you're doing. But like if you put a really clickbaity blog up and you're getting $3 impressions, per 1,000, that's great. But then you might be getting like $300 inquiries because out of all those people, you're not getting many inquiries if you're not retargeting. And then you might have another ad that's like very specific, very pointed at one type of person. And your impressions might be $25 for every 1,000, but your inquiries are at $10 per, right? So it's kind of like a balance of like, you can't just look at just one clicks. You kind of have to, just kind of like think through it and think through, hey, who am I reaching? What set stage am I on? Am I converting on whatever material I'm getting them on? And then how am I following up with all this? Because each of these, even within our Facebook ads program, like we go through like, hey, these are like different parts of the funnel. These are different, intentions. These are different objectives. These are different things we're trying to do, whether we're doing it with video, blogs, testimonials, landing pages, lead forms, etc.
Right. That's a good question, though. Good questions, guys. Thank you.
All right. So before we get off, so we have people checking in from Houston, Arizona. Marielle Barnes is in Kansas City. By the way, I remember whenever that Kansas City Super Bowl was played, people were confused. They thought Kansas City was in Kansas. Actually, I heard that it's half true. I don't know. Have you ever been there? I heard that like Kansas City is like mostly in Missouri, but like part of it isn't. I don't know how that works.
I'm not really good with geography, so I don't know.
Is Kansas City
You're just laughing in the other room. Yeah, I'm not real great with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe someone will correct us on that. All right. So Reveal It Boudoir says studio is closed right now due to, oh wow, lost job due to COVID. Sorry to hear that. And actually, let me see that. Did she post her group? She did. Okay. All right. So there are a lot in here, and obviously we answered some of these. Penny Fraser's in Lauderdale by the Sea. Penny, I'm like right near you. I think Jen, you stayed near there when you were in. Where'd you stay? Bell Harbor?
Isn't it a hotel? Oh, wait. I was close to Bell Harbor. I was also in Hollywood. And then, I don't know. But when I was there, that was right when that condo collapsed. So I was like driving around, remember? So I wasn't actually able to like drive down. But yeah.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. I love it down there.
All right. Well, thank you so much for this like 2021 third quarter recap. I mean, we have 3 months left. So anything left for the year? Any departing words?
No, I mean, hopefully it just keeps getting better. Like the world starts to have more normalcy. I think it's going pretty well though. I had a really good year. I took a lot more time off, which was really nice. But yeah, thanks for the chat, and thanks for everyone that joined us today live.
All right, guys, below, regardless of where you're watching this, maybe you're listening to the audio or video on YouTube, click on the link and you can join our Facebook group. And if you're on YouTube, make sure to subscribe. Later, guys.
All right. Bye, guys.
All right. Bye.